Hey guys, welcome to 10-Minute English with May. And today we are going to talk about our adjective clause. So there are going to be many lessons on adjective clause because it is quite difficult. But let's establish a few facts first. An adjective clause is a modifier and it is a level 3 modifier. So if you remember, we talked about how a modifier is a word, a phrase, or a clause that describes or modifies another word. In this case, a noun or pronoun. So our level 1 modifier would be an adjective, like beautiful, handsome. Our level 2 would be a phrase that functions as an adjective, so like a prepositional phrase, an infinitive phrase, and a positive or a participle phrase. So today we are talking about our level 3 modifier adjective clause. A clause is something with subject and verb. So remember this. Unlike a phrase, it is a subject and it has subject and verb, pardon me. And an adjective clause is not a sentence on its own. All right, so it needs to be paired with an independent clause to form a complete sentence, which we call a complex sentence. All right, so now let's first get the clauses out of the way. So when I mean independent and dependent clause, I simply mean that whether it can stand alone as a sentence. So an independent clause, like over here, he is a reporter. Remember, it is a clause, so it has subject verb. So in this case, an independent clause is also a simple sentence. It is a complete sentence. And we have 3 dependent clauses. So dependent, by definition, it depends on something else to become a sentence. So it is not a sentence on its own, despite having subject verb. So we have 3 different kinds of dependent clauses. A noun clause is like a noun. It functions as subject or the object of the sentence. So for example, in this case, we have a noun clause or a that clause, and it is functioning as the direct object. So I know that he is a reporter. I know something, right? And of course, let's go to adverbial clause first. We have an adverbial clause here. Since Bob is a reporter, comma, he needs to be good with words. So remember our part of speech lesson on conjunction. Since is a subordinating conjunction. So whenever you have a subordinator or subordinating conjunction, it makes a clause dependent. So even if you have subject and verb, Bob is, it is now a dependent clause. All right, so it needs to be paired with independent clause, which is he needs to be good with words. And that together forms a complex sentence. Okay. All right, so now let's go to our focus or our main topic of this lesson. Adjective clause in this case would be who is a reporter. So it's very important for you to know that an adjective clause starts with a relative pronoun. Okay, so we have relative pronoun who, whom, whose, which, that. And of course, we also have something called relative adverbs, which is when, where, and why. So if you're modifying a time, it's when. If you're modifying a place, it is where. And if you're modifying a reason, it is why. So in this case, we're modifying a person. So of course, we would use who, right? Who, whom, whose would be for modifying people. All right, so you can see here, what is my independent clause? Bob works at BBC, right? So who is a reporter is simply adjective function modifying Bob. And of course, being a clause, it has subject, verb, who is. All right. So now you can see on the screen, we have relative pronouns again. That's a reminder. Who, whom, whose for people, which, that for things and animals, and of course, when, where, why for time, place, and reason. So let's try to identify our adjective clauses in the following example sentences. He is a reporter who spends most of his time in London, right? An adjective clause starts with relative pronoun and it is modifying antecedent reporter. So remember from our pronoun lesson, the noun that is represented or described by a pronoun, that is called the antecedent because it usually comes before the pronoun. All right. And of course, you can see here inside my adjective clause, I can have prepositional phrases as well. All right. And for number 2, Jay, whom I love, is a super handsome man. So you can see where is my relative pronoun. It is whom, because again, I am talking about a person. So I need to use who, whom, whose. So later on, we will talk about the difference between who, whom, and whose. But for now, know that whom is the objective case because I love Jay. I love him. I love whom. Okay, so that is our non-essential adjective clause. So if you don't remember what non-essential means, it means that because the noun I'm modifying is very specific, in most cases, it would be a proper noun. So I would have 2 commas called inserter commas to enclose this non-essential information. All right, and number 3. So Tiger, whose basketball skill is excellent, can score a 3-pointer easily. So my relative pronoun would be whose, because again, I'm modifying a person, Tiger, right? And in this case, this is a possessive case. His basketball skill is excellent. All right. Okay, so again, Tiger is a proper noun, right? Unless you have a lot of people called Tiger, right? So I have 2 commas, inserter commas to enclose this non-essential information. And for number 4, you can see it's the same thing. I have 2 commas, right? Because Bangladesh, again, that is a proper noun, right? A country. So which ranks 9th in population among the countries of the world? That is non-essential. And since I'm modifying a thing, right? Not a person, a country. So I would use which instead of who or whom or whose. Okay. And just keep in mind for now that which is always used with non-essential adjective clause. So it is always used with comma, whereas that is used with essential adjective clause, like in sentence number 5. So it is used without commas. Okay. So for number 5, the committee reviewed the objectives that had been reached and those that had not. Okay, so in this case, I have 2 adjective clauses that have been reached and that had not. So because I am modifying again things, objectives meaning goals, I use that. Okay, because this is essential, so I do not use which and I do not have commas. And number 6, June is the month when many couples marry. So my adjective clause is when many couples marry, right? Why do I use a relative adverb when? Because I am modifying a month, which is time. So again, you can see that there is no comma, so this is essential. And I have subject verb, couples marry. Okay, in number 7, Taiwan is a place where people have democracy, right? So I have relative adverb where because I am modifying a place. So people have democracy. I have subject of verb. And this is essential as well. And last but not least, I know the reason why I failed the course. I have relative adverb why? Because I am modifying the reason. This is essential, and because it is a clause, I also have subject, and verb. Okay, so that is it for our lesson today. So what I want you to remember for this lesson is that an adjective clause can be essential or non-essential. It can modify people, place, things, right? Time, reason, and it always starts with something we call a relative pronoun or a relative adverb. Okay, and that is it for today. Bye-bye.